All right, so here's the second one of these that I promised. This one is from a different mystery student. And I decided to go back to the mathematics essay to give you some comments there, because your final exam will be on the sciences. So it's good to check out a really good example of an AOK essay. Now, your final exam, I hope you write a little bit more and in a little more depth than this. But I thought this was a very good example because it shows us structure. It's very, very hard to get a 100% from me. I gave this essay a 100% because the structure is impeccable. I cannot think of how an essay of this size could be better structured. So I think we can learn a lot of good lessons by dissecting this essay a little bit and see what makes the structure of it so good and why that makes the TOK so clear. So let's start off. First, the mystery student does something very wise. They repeat the quote. And this seems like a very silly thing to say, but that's really important because you know that this student is going to do their best to stay on topic. You must always deal with the quote as written. If you change the quote or only talk about part of the quote, that's very dangerous. So, by writing the quote at the top of the page, it helps maintain your focus on your key idea. Again, one thing that we talked about in the last essay was how the last essay was a little bit unbalanced. This one has that potential as well. We have two parts. When X happens, then something else happens. This prompt is in two parts. It's saying something happens before something else. Dealing with all sides of this is really important to take care of this whole prompt. So let's look at the introduction. First, take a minute. Please read the introduction. Pause the recording. Do that now. All right, so check this out. Again, this one's very strong because it goes directly to TOK. This student is identifying faith as a way of knowing. And faith not in general, but for generation of new knowledge in math. This is excellent because it is very, very specific. We have an AOK. We don't just have an AOK, we have one particular job in the AOK related directly to knowledge. We're generating new knowledge, and we're looking at how that generation occurs. We have a really good thesis here, as this student is identifying a particular way of knowing as being crucial to that happening. And the next sentence breaks that down even more clearly. We have working on a proof, and then first we need to have faith. And faith in what? We need to have faith in its validity. Again, this is a very key word. This is a very good TOK word. What does valid mean in TOK terms? If you don't know, I suggest you go back to your notebook and check out what we studied about reason. It's a very important word to think about when we're talking about math. All right, so this introduction, though it's very, very short, it does all of the important jobs it needs to do. It translates the quote into TOK terms, and it makes a strong, clear, singular TOK claim that will be examined throughout this entire essay. Let's move on to the second paragraph now. Again, pause the video and take the time to read through the second paragraph. Do that now. All right, so here we have a very good topic sentence again. Every body paragraph needs a topic sentence to control the conversation. One paragraph explores one idea. This paragraph is going to explore the idea of faith as a driving force in producing a new theory. Pretty good idea. Now, how can we improve this? We've got a little error here. Theory has a particular meaning in natural sciences, but in math, we're more often talking about theorems, not theories. So, little slip here, but overall, a fantastic idea. As we move forward, this student moves step by step very, very clearly through the whole process. One thing that you'll hear me talk about is the dissection of a process. Just like in biology class, you might dissect an animal to see what all the parts are, how all the parts connect together, and how an organism works. We have to do the same thing in TOK class to thinking, to knowledge. This student dissects this process very clearly by identifying all of the parts that occur and how those parts relate to each other. Check it out. We have a key idea, the development of new knowledge. Here we have new theory, we have new knowledge, we have a good connection. Comes from the proof of a conjecture. True, good. Tell us more about that. The work of proving is usually long and exhaustive, and the result is unclear. I'm not sure if it is unclear or not, but we'll move on. Mathematicians may encounter countless impediments without the promise of the existence of a valid proof. Okay, very, very good point. And it kind of explains this thing that I didn't totally agree with. The result is unclear. Well, if you prove it through a logical chain, it is clear. But when you're working on the proof, you don't know if you're doing the right thing or not. So this could be explained a little bit more clearly, but it's an excellent idea. This can easily cause negative emotions which prevent mathematicians from starting or continuing their work. Okay, that's true. It's easy to get discouraged when things aren't going your way, or when the goal is unclear, or if you don't even know if you're succeeding or not. But check this out. In situations like this, faith becomes a crucial motivation. Here we have a part of the essay that talks about the challenges, and now we have a new part that talks about the solution. The solution here is faith as a motivation, how it drives mathematicians forward. There isn't sufficient proof because nobody's proved it yet, but you still need to put in the work to do this proof. So even when there is exhaustion, failure, and doubt, faith pushes you forward. Now, a lot of Chinese students, when they look at this, might think there's too much here, or that it's a little bit repetitive. I don't think that's true. I think this is actually a very, very good piece of English writing, because it doesn't rely on the reader to understand the writer's idea. The writer goes slowly, step by step, through every point of this. They have a key idea. They explain what challenges math has. They explain how one solution solves this challenge and therefore is extraordinarily important. All of this ties right back to the introduction again and right back to the prompt. Very, very clear step-by-step explanation with a clear link back to the thesis, which has a clear link back to the prompt. Everything is tied together so tightly at the beginning of this essay. As I said, we're looking at structure today. This structure is amazing. Let's look at the next paragraph. Take a minute, pause the recording, read through this one. Okay, again, we have an excellent topic sentence. This paragraph is going to be working through an example. Andrew Wiles' Fermat's last theorem. My students, we did this in class, so you're familiar with this. This brings very, very good details to the theoretical discussion above. One reason I like this is you can see that the example is after the TOK abstract discussion. This is very important in TOK writing. You need to be able to give the TOK idea first, to prioritize the TOK idea, and then illustrate the idea with example. So, our example, we have Andrew Wiles, great. It was considered impossible. That links back to the previous paragraph about how the difficulties. Most mathematicians didn't try to do it, but he had a personal connection. He had a strong faith in the validity of the theorem, and this faith motivated him. Again, see how this goes step by step. We have one sentence identifying faith, then the next sentence moves this to motivation. Then the next step talks about 7 years that the faith sustained him for a long period of time. Step by step by step. No point is missed in the logical chain. No point is missed in the dissection of the process. Again, the structure is really, really beautiful here. 7 years, during this time, he had doubt. Faith pushed him forward. Without that, it probably wouldn't exist. Excellent example. All points of the previous paragraph here are shown off in a very, very clear example in the next paragraph. These two paragraphs together work really, really strongly to prove the key idea posited in the introduction. Now, we can't just prove one side of things, however. This is TOK. We always need to look for counterclaims. We need to look for other perspectives. So, let's take a look at the next paragraph. Take a minute, pause this recording, and read through the next paragraph. Do that now. All right, so what's the counterclaim to this? If we want to argue against the importance of faith, how will we do it? We've got a good signal word to turn. We know we're moving on to a new perspective. Faith is not a beneficial factor. It slows down the efficiency of knowledge development. Okay, this is pretty good. How can we make it even stronger? This is a very dangerous, vague word. Who are these others? These mysterious other people. If we can tie this down to a particular knowledge community, we could do even better with this. On the other hand, this is a strong topic sentence. It's a very clear idea. It shows a clear counterclaim. The only thing it's missing is an exact knowledge community. So let's step through this and let's look, does this paragraph also go in the very step-by-step manner that the previous two have? Okay, so why we've got this problem of efficiency. Why would faith be inefficient? One, it's not based on evidence or reasoning. Okay, it contradicts the logical nature of math. Okay, that makes sense. Is that efficiency? Do we have a clear link here? So. Based on evidence or reasoning, isn't reasoning evidence? What is the difference between evidence and reasoning here? This is a good idea, but it needs to be unpacked more. There's a lot going on in this sentence, And this is the first sentence that sort of veers away from clear TOK vocabulary, and therefore it's a little bit too vague. I understand the idea, I understand where the student's trying to go, but they need to go a little bit deeper to unpack this. All right, although a strong conviction may motivate a mathematician's proof, it can also lead mathematicians to being rigidly preoccupied in proving a conjecture that's actually false. Now, that's a really great point. This is a very, very logical counterclaim, and it fits the idea of efficiency. When a mathematician has faith, they keep chasing the idea, but they don't actually have proof it's right. So they might go down a blind alley. They might take a long time working on something that is actually not productive. Here, the idea of efficiency comes back much more strongly. So this paragraph is saved here. This blind conviction, good vocabulary there, can be easily wrong and is likely to cause a waste in resources and time. Okay, good. So here, again, step by step. The mathematician is preoccupied, it's false. What is the result of this falseness? A waste in resources and time, step by step. This student just doesn't stop here. The student continues with this next sentence, both to show the cause and the effect. The student does not imply the effect. The student states the effect very clearly. And what is the solution? Instead, deducing the validity of the conjecture from available facts may lead to more accurate speculation and avoid the waste of resources. Okay. And again, thereby promoting the efficiency and again, good connection of the development of new knowledge. So apart from one sentence that gets a little bit wobbly due to some imprecise vocabulary, we have another very, very tightly constructed paragraph here that shows off an important counterclaim to the idea above. All right, let's look at the conclusion then. Take a minute, read through the conclusion, pause the video, and do that now. All right, let's take a look. In conclusion, the quote states that faith is essential for the development of new knowledge because it is a strong force. Okay, it's a repetitive statement of the thesis. However, there are counter-arguments. Okay, this is repetitive of the final paragraph. Now, how can we make this better? What can we do to make a more interesting conclusion? A repetitive conclusion like this is fine if you're writing your TOEFL essay or your IELTS essay and you run out of time and you need a conclusion. Fine. But the key idea for a TOK essay is implication. If we can show off implication in the conclusion, then we're going to have a strong idea that's going to wrap up our essay well and leave the reader with a really strong impression. So, to get started thinking about implication, think about this question. Why is my exploration of these ideas important? That's really what implication talks about, the importance of the exploration you've done. What should the reader remember? Here, if the reader forgets the rest of your essay, what should stick in their mind? What should they take away? Why? Answering these questions can lead you to implication, the importance of these ideas. Or possibly, what is the effect of this thinking on the AOK? And here you might connect this back to how people do math, how people think about math, how people learn math. You can go back to the idea of application from the knowledge framework a little bit. Sometimes when people ask, why is this important? What they really mean is, how is this useful? So, what is the effect of this exploration you did? You thought a lot about this. So what? How does this affect how the reader should think about the AOK itself? So, that's this essay. Like I said, I don't give 100s often. I gave this a 100 because of its really, really beautiful structure. We've got a clear, singular TOK idea for the introduction. We've got very, very beautiful topic sentences for every body paragraph. And within every body paragraph, we have some really, really good connections and step-by-step movement. For example, moving from a description of the challenges to a description of the solution, or from a clear statement of cause and effect. No step of this dissection of the process is left out or left to the reader to figure out themselves. The writer does all of the work. The writer shows every step. If you can do that in your writing, your essay will be fantastic. All right, thank you very much, mystery student number 2, for such a good essay to talk about. And good luck on your final.